Hey y'all, it's Nancy the Handy Scandy. Welcome back for another crafty venture. Happy New Year, y'all. Welcome back. I hope everybody had a lovely New Year and lovely Christmas or whatever holidays you celebrate. I am working on some cards for hashtag snowmen in January 2025 and just wanted to come and share this with you, but it's a little long. I've cut it down from about 3 hours to just over 30 minutes. So I was very successful in cutting out the excess, but still 35 minutes is long. So with that being said, feel free to watch it in double speed if you need, or watch it in segments, or grab yourself a cuppa, sit back and put your feet up. Thanks for joining me. Hey y'all, welcome back. I am kicking off the new year with a project, of course, featuring snowmen. But my process today in the making of these cards is comparing and contrasting different watercolor cards, if you will. I do have a mixed media in here as well, but I wanted to just try some different ones, see if the paper really matters, at least in terms of card making. And I know for some projects and techniques it absolutely does, but let's see for this one in particular, for card making, some of the vintage vibe, that kind of thing. And I throw a lot of different mediums at it, but we're going to see what we think in the end. But I start out, I have this Fluid 100. This is a little watercolor card brick or block, if you will. It is 140 pound, 300 GSM. Very easy to get out. As you can see, this one just kind of came apart, but it is adhered all the way around. So it's just these two sides that, well, this side is too. Normally what I have to do is stick like a palette knife in there and then come around the edge. So, but I really, really like this paper. And then I have the Strathmore Mixed Media postcards. So this is the postcards, and they do have a little postcard situation on the back. But it is a heavy-duty mixed media, 184 pound. Both 300 GSM, but this one's 184, this one's 140. So very interesting. And in theory, this one might be able to take more product, if you will, than this one, but we'll find out. And then I have my tried and true fabulous, I'm going to use this and not hoard it, Arches cold press. And this one is, again, one of the blocks. And you can see that it is adhered all the way around. It has the black, I don't know, it's like a glue, but this one little spot right here is where I stick my palette knife down in there. Can you see that? I stick my palette knife down in there and I go along the edges. But I keep all of my scraps because it is pricey and I don't want to waste it. But then I also have this Craft Perfect watercolor card from Tonic Studios. I've had this in my stash for many years as well. Oh, I forgot to tell you, this one is 140 pound, 300 GSM as well, as is this one. It actually doesn't tell us the pound, the weight. Yeah, it doesn't tell us the weight. I'm looking to see if it's somewhere else. It is not. But anyway, I used some of this as well. And they all have one side that's a little more textured than the other. And what I find with the tonic papers is they all have like this wavy texture to them. It can be kind of difficult. They all have a texture. All watercolor card has a texture. But this is a very distinct, I don't know if you can see that wave in there or not. But anyway, there's that. So those are my 4 watercolor cards. Craft Perfect by Tonic, Arches Cold Press, Strathmore Mixed Media postcards, and then the Fluid 100 cold press. All right, and then I started watercoloring by using this palette from Altenew. This was a freebie at some point. I have my swatch somewhere. Here it is. It's not much of a swatch, but it's what I did. It's a very granular paint, and it takes a lot to build up the color to get some intensity. And then I switched over to my Caron Brush Marker Pros. I like these a little bit better. The palette is still fairly limited, but it also has the entire range, and there's different intensities, different shades. So like there's 3 shades of teal, right? There's 3 shades of green. There's this looks like it's a pink, but it is not a pink. It says skin, so it's more of a tan. So to me, that goes like, this could be a tan or a yellow. This is, what is this one? Rosewood. So this actually is more of a green. So, but you can see, and then there's the purple, the blue to purple, and then there's the browns and the grays. And this is actually a blender pen in there as well. And then I'm just going to show you the rest of the products really quick. So I have this embossing folder. It's a Stampin' Up! And Sizzix. It makes a beautiful, beautiful embossed image. So there is that. And then I use these 2 background stamps from Impression Obsession. Cowboy Christmas on this one. And then this one is the Vintage Tree. So really love both of those. And then I used a couple stencils. And this one is called Script Stencil. This one, I'm not even sure which stamp set it came with, but it's one of those sets from Joann's. So you get two mini stencils basically. I use the polka dot. And this is number THMM155. And then going back to the papers, I also used this paper pad from Impression Obsession. And then I also used several of these from Tim Holtz. This is the Christmas 2024 backdrops. So I used some of this one, not that side, and then I also used some of this one, not that side, which this side is adorable and I definitely want to use it. So, but the stamp that I used for all 4 cards is this one. It's called Snowman Kisses. Let me pull that out so we can read all this stuff. It is from Creative Expressions, designed by Sam Poole. We all love Miss Sam Poole. She's amazing. I stamped it in hybrid ink. I use my Pink Fresh Detail Black hybrid ink. And this is good for watercoloring. It's good for Copic coloring. It's good for colored pencils. Pretty much whatever medium you want to use, that hybrid ink can stand up to it. So I love that about it. I stamped this image on all 4 of the different watercolor cards. So there's that. I also have used a few sprigs of this pine needle cluster. And remember that this, it looks like it's one branch, right? But if you look closely, you can see that they're not adhered, and they are 4 separate sprigs. Then I also have this big old die from Honeybee Stamps. I've had it for several years. And it is called the Plaid A7 Cover Plate Top, because I think there were 2 in this set. And I only bought the one, and I don't use it very often anymore, but I'm so glad that I pulled it out. And I have a couple pieces that are still die cut over here. So that is a part of one, and this is a part of one, and of course this is a part of one. So on one of the cards I use it as a full background, and on the others that it's used on, it's not used on all 4, but I just use bits and pieces to look like it's sticking out from under, just to kind of be another layer. But it's definitely a layer on its own. Those are the products that I've used. If I used anything else along the way, oh, I did use some lace trims, and I did use a few buttons, and I used one of my little antique-y rusty stars as well. The buttons are all here. I have 2 of these jars. So many to choose from. So with all that being said, with all those products shared, I am going to go ahead and cut away into my process, and then I will be back at the very end to talk each one of them through. And then we'll talk about the papers, the cardstocks, the watercolor card, how they worked, what my overall thought is in terms of which one is better or worse, or is there no difference in terms of card making. Right? And again, it depends on the project that you're doing, but how did all of these hold up to card making? So I'll be back at the very end. my friends, so here are my 4 final cards. Now this one is made with the Strathmore mixed media. It was the first one that I did. This one has the Arches cold press watercolor card paper. This one has the Fluid 100, and this one is the Tonic Craft, what was it called? Craft Perfect. So when you look at them, just looking at the stamped images and all the different products that I've thrown at them, they all held up about the same, to be honest. They really did. They all took the stamping very well. They all took the watercolor medium very well. They all took the stamping, because I used the background stamps as well. And I used the stencils to put some paste through, which I forgot to tell you. I used this Art Extravaganza by Finnabair. It's a platinum crackle, so there is a bit of a sheen. Oh, then I did ink blending, and these are the inks that I used. I have Vintage Photo, Tea-Dye, Antique Linen. Those are the inks that I did the background stamping as well as the ink blending with. And I also did some stenciling on the fronts and on the insides, and we'll get to that in a bit. But then I also came back and I did some splatter, and I used these 2 watercolor pigments by Brutus Monroe. I used the white and the gilded, and that gave us some more of this beautiful texture in the background. You can see the white splatters, you can see the gold, see how it picks up all that shimmer in the light. Absolutely beautiful. But you can also see the shimmer of the platinum texture paste. Now, it didn't really crackle. I mean, if you look up close, you can see crackle, but both of my stencils were relatively small in terms of the pattern. Between the script and the polka dot, they're small. They add texture, they add interest, they add to the vintage vibe, but to see the crackle, you really have to be up close. This one you can see some crackle a little bit better. But you can see how I was able to build up those layers of color. They're all just a little bit different in terms of the overall colors that I used. Again, with the texture and the shimmer and the shine. And then let's look at each one at a time. So here you can see I've got the pattern paper by Tim Holtz, and then this one by Impression Obsession. This is the, it's just solid black, and I've put it through the embossing folder. Here I have a little piece of black lace, and I have 2 of the sprigs and 1 of the buttons. And then that is the back. So you can see I have another of the textured black cardstock, another of the pinstripe, and then the some more of the pattern paper there. And then you can see where I've done some stenciling and some splatter. And again, same on the inside, stenciling and splatter, and all 3 of the papers are represented on the inside as well. So that one I love, love, love. This one again is, so this one was the Strathmore, this one is the Arches, and I don't really see much of a difference in terms of the paper itself, the way it watercolored, the way that it was able to hold on to the medium, the way that it took all the different products thrown at it. I think they're all basically the same in terms of their ability to take it all. So again, all of the same, basically the same mediums, the watercolor, the splatter, the stenciling with the paste, the inking, the water. And again, there's the inside. Now on this one, I just have that green plaid that I showed you by Tim Holtz, and then the 1 piece of the black. And then so I use those again on the inside. Now this one has much more splatter, but it has the Vintage Photo and it has the gold. I didn't use any of the white on this one. I did on the image, but not the card itself. And then on the back, more of the paper and more of the splatter. Strathmore and Arches cold press. And then this one is the Fluid 100. And this one I have some craft. So the card is a cream cardstock, and then some craft back there. And then this is one of the stripes from Impression Obsession. Here I have a piece of that plaid die cut, and then I added this little piece of trim and a little button. Now this button has the twine through it, and I forgot to talk about that on this one. I have a black and brown, basically, twine that I've wrapped around 3 times, and this is the one where I have the antique star and the button and a couple of the sprigs. So I think that's really fun. This one is a little simpler, if you will, in terms of what I put on the front, with just the button and the little lace there. But then on the inside, I did some more of the paper and some splatter and a little bit of ink blending along the edges, and same on the back. And then this one, of course, is the Tonic Craft Perfect. This is the one where I just used the die cut in the background, and it adds a very neat kind of grid-like look to it. And then on the cardstock, or on the image itself, I wrapped some even finer twine around it, and I added a couple sprigs and the button. And then on the inside there I have the cardstocks again, and I have the stenciling. I have both of the script and the polka dot, and then some splatter, same on the back. In terms of card making, I can honestly tell you my experience, they all functioned in the same way. They all received the mediums in the same way. They all basically painted in the same way. Like, I didn't have problems with any of them. So I don't know. And I threw a lot of different mediums at it, right? I used the hybrid ink, and then I used the watercolor, which was either the container by the palette, I guess, by Altenew, or it was the Karen Brush Marker Pros. Lots of water, lots of water. And then I used the background stamps to add to that vintage vibe. And those again were the different distress inks, and lots of water. And then I added the stenciling, which was the texture paste. And then I added the watercolor splatter. Oh, this one's not on right. But the aqua pigments by Brutus Monroe. And then I did the ink blending again. So I used these in a different manner, the distress inks in a different manner. And then for some of them, well, for all of them actually, there's some hot glue on them. And they all took all of that just fine. No problems at all. So that was my overall experience. So y'all let me know what your experience has been using different watercolor cards, different watercolor cardstocks, different watercolor papers, or even mixed media, because the Strathmore one, this first one, was a mixed media and not a watercolor card. And I can tell you that it did not function any differently than the watercolor cards. So tell me what your thoughts would have been in the beginning if you had one that you thought might hold up a little bit better or function better. What is your experience yourself using different ones, or have you had that experience? Have you ever contrasted and compared different brands, contrasted and compared mixed media to watercolor? And then finally, if you have a favorite of these 4. I don't know. I like each of them for different reasons. I think this one might be my favorite because I am a classic black and white kind of girl, and adding that pop of red and the pop of green to the mix, I think is just adorable. But also, I love them all. This is kind of the rosewood, and then the 2 different yellows. So the rosewood is kind of a greeny brown. And this is green and brown, and this is 2 tones of green. So I don't know, guys. I don't know that I have a favorite. I don't know that I could choose. If I had to choose, I think it would be this one, but I do love them all. So with that, my friends, I'm going to tap out. I thank you for spending this time with me while I do my little experiment with watercolor cardstock. and ended up with these 4 sweet, sweet snowman cards to kick off hashtag snowmen in January 2025. Don't forget that it's snowmen plural, not snowman, but snowmen in January, because we're in the month of January, and add the year 2025. Otherwise, we're going to be contending with 2 other years. I don't want to say contending like it's a bad thing. But this way, when we put 2025, we'll only be pulling up the new ones from this year versus pulling up 2 prior years as well. So, or you can use both if you want to. It's totally up to you. But if you want me to see them, please tag me so that I know, and or send me a link or something. I want to be able to see everybody's everything, because sometimes at least I've been finding that the hashtag searches don't always work. So sometimes you use the hashtag to do the search, sometimes you omit the hashtag, and I don't know if there's an actual formula to it, if I'm just, I don't know, maybe I'm just daft in some way, but anyway, it doesn't always work for me. So I just say that to say, if you really want me to see what you have shared, please tag me or send me a link so that I can go out there and see what you've made. And until next time, guys, thank you again for spending this time with me. I'm so excited to see what everybody has to share for hashtag snowmen in January 2025. And I wish you a very happy new year. I hope everybody made it through the night safe and sound and no one is hungover. And yeah, I hope you're safe and warm and cozy at home, having maybe some cocoa or some tea or some coffee. Like me, coffee. Until next time, guys. Bye. Mwah. I'm out.